For 10 years, I gave up my nights, my weekends, my own health, to take care of my parents. I fed my father when his hands shook too much to hold a spoon. I sat with my mother through 3 hospital stays. I missed my own birthday for years in a row because someone had to be there. My younger brother, he came to visit twice. Called maybe once a month. He was too busy, too far away, too stressed with his own life. So when my parents passed and the lawyer opened that will, I actually thought, for one foolish second, that all of it had meant something. It didn't. They left him the house, the savings, everything. I got a box of old photographs and a handwritten note that said, quote, "You always understood. Stay until the end, because what I did after." Reading that letter is not what anyone, including my brother, expected. My name, for the purposes of this story, is Sarah Mitchell. I grew up in a quiet town outside Columbus, Ohio, in a house my parents, Robert and Diane Mitchell, built with their own hands in the early 1980s. I was the older of 2 children. My brother, Ryan, was 3 years younger than me. Growing up, people always said we were close, and in a way, we were until life started pulling us in different directions. I stayed close to home, went to community college, then a state university 20 minutes from my parents' house. Ryan left for the West Coast the moment he turned 18, chasing a tech career in Seattle. Nobody blamed him for that. Ambition isn't a crime. But somewhere along the way, chasing a career turned into never coming back. My father was diagnosed with early stage Parkinson's disease when I was 26. My mother, already dealing with chronic arthritis, simply could not manage his care alone. So I did what felt natural. I moved back into the house I grew up in. I told myself it would be temporary, 6 months, maybe a year, until we figured out a long-term care plan. That temporary arrangement lasted 10 years. Ryan sent money, sometimes not consistently, and honestly, not much. A few $100s here and there, always followed by a text that said something like, "Sorry, work's crazy right now. Thanks for handling things." Handling things, as if I was managing a spreadsheet. Not spoon-feeding our father and driving our mother to dialysis 3 times a week. I want to be clear about something. Before I go further, I'm not telling you this story so you feel sorry for me. I made my choice. I love my parents, and taking care of them, difficult as it was, gave me purpose. This isn't a story about regretting that choice. This is a story about what came after. The years blurred together in a way that's hard to explain unless you've lived it. Morning started at 5:30 a.m., helping my father get dressed because his tremors made buttons impossible. Then breakfast, then medications, 11 different pills, spread across 3 separate schedules. Then my mother's turn helping her into the shower chair because her joints had gotten too stiff to manage alone. I gave up a serious relationship in year 3. My partner at the time told me, gently but honestly, that he didn't see a future where I had room for anyone but my parents. He wasn't wrong. I chose them. I gave up a promotion in year 5. My manager offered me a regional position that would have doubled my salary, but it required relocating 2 hours away. I turned it down without hesitation. Meanwhile, Ryan's life moved forward exactly the way he wanted it to. He got married in year 4, a beautiful wedding in Napa Valley that my parents were too frail to attend, so I went alone, carrying gifts and apologies on their behalf. He bought a house in year 6, had his first child in year 7. Every milestone, I sent a card. Every video call, I updated him on dad's condition, on mom's new medication, on the home health aide we'd hired for extra coverage. Every conversation, he'd say the same thing. "You're a saint, Sarah. I don't know how you do it." I used to think that was a compliment. Looking back, I think it was permission he was giving himself. As long as I was doing it, he never had to. By year 8, my father could no longer walk without assistance. My mother's kidneys were failing. I was 36 years old, unmarried, no children, working part-time from home just to keep the household running, and utterly, completely exhausted. I remember one night, sitting on the kitchen floor at a.m. after cleaning up from a fall my father had taken, and I called Ryan not to complain, just because I needed to hear another voice that understood what our family was going through. He didn't pick up. He texted back the next morning, "Sorry, was putting the kids to bed. Everything okay?" Everything was not okay, but I told him it was fine, because that's what I always told him. In year 9, my mother passed away in her sleep. I was the one who found her. Ryan flew in for the funeral, stayed for 4 days, cried at the service, hugged me tightly, told me he was so sorry he hadn't been there more. I remember thinking, in that moment, that maybe this would be the turning point. Maybe losing MOM would finally bring him back into our lives in a real way. It didn't. He flew home 4 days later, and the calls went back to once a month. My father declined rapidly after losing my mother. Grief does that to people, especially people already fighting their own bodies. That final year was the hardest of the entire decade. I hired additional in-home nursing support, using savings I didn't really have, because I refused to put him in a facility. I had promised him that years earlier, and I intended to keep it. About 4 months before he passed, my father asked me to bring him a notebook and a pen. His hands shook too badly to write clearly anymore, so I helped guide his hand as he dictated a letter. He wouldn't tell me what it said. He just asked me to seal it and give it to the family lawyer, a man named Mr. Bennett, who had handled our family's affairs for over 20 years. I didn't think much of it at the time. I assumed it was some kind of personal message, maybe instructions for his funeral. My father passed away peacefully 3 weeks later, with me holding his hand. Ryan flew in again. Same tears, Same apologies. Same 4-day visit. Then came the will reading. We sat in Mr. Bennett's office on a grey Tuesday morning. Ryan sat beside me, dressed in an expensive black suit, checking his phone twice before the meeting even started. Mr. Bennett read through the standard legal language first: funeral arrangements, minor possessions, some family heirlooms split evenly between us. My mother's wedding ring went to me. My father's old pocket watch went to Ryan. Fair enough, I thought. Then came the main asset, the house, and what remained of my parents' modest savings, roughly $140,000 combined. To my son, Ryan, Mr. Bennett read, I leave the family home and the entirety of my remaining savings. The room went silent. I actually laughed, a short, confused sound, because surely I had misheard. And to my daughter, Sarah, he continued, I leave this letter, which she may read now or in private. That was it. That was my inheritance. A sealed letter. I want to be honest with you, in that moment, I didn't feel sadness. I felt something closer to disbelief, followed immediately by a hot, sharp anger that I hadn't expected to feel toward my own parents. Ryan, to his credit, looked stunned too. He turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw something like guilt cross his face. Sarah, I didn't know about this. I swear, I believed him. That almost made it worse. I opened the letter right there, in front of both of them, my hands shaking the way my father's used to. My father had written dictated. Really, that he and my mother had discussed this decision together, months before she passed. Their reasoning, in his words, was this: Sarah has always been the strong one. She doesn't need the house to know she was loved. Ryan struggles more than he lets on, and we worry what happens to him and his family if he doesn't have this. We are trusting you, Sarah, to understand, because you always have. He closed the letter by saying he hoped I would forgive them, and that the greatest inheritance he could leave me wasn't money or property, but the character I had built by caring for them without expecting anything in return. I sat in that office and read those words twice. Then I folded the letter, put it in my bag, and stood up to leave. Ryan followed me into the parking lot. Sarah, wait. This isn't right. I'll talk to a lawyer. We'll split it. I stopped him, not with anger, with something quieter. Ryan, I said, I don't want your half of a house I gave 10 years of my life to. I want you to understand what those 10 years actually cost me, and I don't think you ever will. I didn't take Ryan up on his offer to split the inheritance, though he brought it up again several times over the following months, each time a little more insistent, a little more guilty. Instead, I did something that surprised even me. I used what little savings I had left, plus a small loan, to finally take the trip I had put off for a decade: 3 weeks traveling through Portugal and Spain, places my mother had always dreamed of visiting but never got the chance to see. I went back to school part-time. I started rebuilding a career I had paused for a decade. It's slower than I would like, starting over in my late 30s, but it's mine. As for the house, Ryan sold it about 8 months later. Too many memories, he said, and honestly, too much guilt, I think, to live in it. He split the proceeds with me anyway, without me asking. I didn't refuse the money that time, not because it made things even, nothing ever will, but because I understood, finally, that this was his way of trying to say what he never could say out loud. We're not as close as we once were. I don't think we ever will be again, not in the way we were as kids. But we talk now, real conversations, not just updates and apologies. I still think about my father's letter sometimes, about whether he was right that the person I became through those 10 years is worth more than any house ever could be. Some days, I believe that completely. Other days, I just wish they had told me the truth while they still could. If you were in my position, would you have accepted the split, or would you have walked away completely? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because there are so many more real, raw family stories coming your way every single week. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.